You're listening to the Artist Athlete Podcast, episode 88. This podcast is dedicated to CIRCUS. It's a place for professionals in the industry to share their stories, viewpoints, and information, and a place for outsiders to get a sneak peek into this world. Hey friends, fans, and enemies. I'm Shannon McKenna. I'm the host of the Artist Athlete Podcast and the founder of theartistathlete.com. For those of you who may not know, The Artist Athlete is more than just a podcast. I have educational resources for aerialists. I share inspiration and insights on my Instagram account all the time at _artist_athlete. And I have a Patreon account that goes specifically toward funding this podcast, where I sometimes leave little notes and thoughts and other things. Things? Sure. Things. I've been getting a lot of feedback lately that people want to see the videos. They want to see the faces of the people who I'm giving interviews to. And honestly, I would love to see their faces too. The recording platform I use in order to ensure that the audio is really good means that we can't actually use video at the same time. However, there are programs that will allow for audio and video at the same time. They're just a little more expensive. So, if you really want some videos, go to patreon.com/theartistathlete. My goal is, if we're starting to get around $1,000 a month, I can start increasing production and adding some video components to this podcast, which I think would be really cool. People are talking a lot about how this podcast helps them with academic papers, how it's a record of history in some instances, how it's providing all of these things that I honestly never expected this podcast would do. But because it's doing it, why not keep on keeping on and make it bigger and better? Help me do that. Go to patreon.com/theartistathlete today. Give as little as $1 a month. Every dollar goes to helping the podcast. My guest today is Lottie. Lisa is a multi-award-winning hula hoop artist with 14 years of performing experience in her pocket. Born in Amsterdam, in the Netherlands, she ran away and joined a traditional circus in India at age 21. She attended 2 circus schools, one in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, and one in London, England. And since then, she has performed in more than 40 countries all around the world with her world-famous hula hoop street show. She currently fosters cats in Melbourne, Australia. And before I get into this interview, there are a couple of other people who I reference in this interview who have been on the podcast before. I will put their names and episode numbers in the show notes, so if you want to go back and listen to other people who do street performing. Kate Great is episode 37. We talk about her a little bit in the podcast. And Etienne and Leah, who are Acrobatrix, the acrobatic comedy duo, they're episode 25. And you also hear Leah's voice at the very end of every episode, because she has not only been a guest on the podcast, she's also a Patreon of the podcast at the $30 level. So sometimes people ask me about advertising, and I don't sell advertising ad space on the podcast. Not yet anyway, because I don't want to have to be responsible for an ad and feeling like they have some control over the content I create. But sometimes circus artists want to promote their products on the podcast, and so they have the option of throwing me $30 a month, and we make a recording and talk about whatever they want to talk about. This also goes for anybody who wants to throw me $30 a month. I'll call you up and we have a little conversation, and then you record a little spot that goes on the podcast, and that's at the $30 level. But you can give way less than that. You can also give way more than that on the Patreon, and I've gotten way off topic. Here's my interview with Lottie. Lottie, welcome to the Artist Athlete Podcast.
Thanks for having me.
So who are you? What do you do? Question number one.
I am Lisa Lottie. I am a middle-aged hula hooper now. I'm a circus performer. I'm a hula hoop artist. And I'm a street performer. So I'm a passionate street performer and a stage performer too. But both. But mainly a hula hoop artist. That's my jam.
So I went on your website, I read your bio, I read about you, and you started hula hooping for a circus in India. Is that the case?
Yeah, that's right. Well, okay, I didn't, like now that I look back on it, it's actually quite an insane story, but at the time it was sort of a very natural progression, if that makes sense. It wasn't that wacky. But I started circus quite late. So I started when I was 21. I had no physical background or of anything like that, no physical, like I'm a high school dropout. I had no idea what I wanted to do when I was growing up. And so I was living in the United Kingdom with like absolutely no goals or nothing. I was just like working in a little shop, just living my life. I guess I'm a little bit at a sort of crossroads of not knowing really what to do. And so very, very randomly, a hula hoop like quite literally rolled into my lap. So I picked up a hula hoop, and it's kind of the first time in my life that I enjoyed doing something enough to continue to do it. And I was kind of quite good at it as well. And I hadn't really ever experienced that before. I'm not really a person that's naturally good at things. I think a lot of people can relate to that. And so I started hula hooping, and really quickly after that, the girl who sold me the hula hoop, her name is Angie Mack. She's a fantastic Australian hula hooper. She called me up and she's like, Lisa, I got offered this job in this Indian circus. Like, you'll have to work really hard. You have to make an act, but you'll tour with the circus. It's 6 months, and you'll just have to move to India and make an act and become a circus performer. Is that something that you'd like to do? And I was like, yeah, that sounds pretty fun.
Okay.
How do I go about making an act? And she's like, she helped me a little bit. She taught me some tricks, because I know no tricks at this point. It's really worth pointing that out. I can hoop to the left, like that's it.
And also like you mentioned earlier, you are middle-aged. So I presume that like YouTube, Instagram, those kinds of things weren't available to you to like see what other people were doing.
Well, so no, I mean, I think there was 7 videos on YouTube at the time. And
okay, total.
Yeah. Like that's it. Like there was a very small amount of videos, and they're mostly from the very beginning of the American hoop dance scene, which is, I think this is like 2005. No. Yeah. 2005, something like that. Yeah. Cause I'm 35 now. So it's like 15 years ago. And so that's kind of what's available, but, so with that tiny little bit of video information, and I have a video that Angie Mack made, like a music video, but that she's hula hooping in. So that was my huge, like I had a DVD of that. And so I was learning my tricks off a DVD in my shitty laptop. I'm stuffing it in, my little flat is so small. I can't even, if I lift my hand up, I touch the ceiling, So I just go, okay, this sounds great. Let's change everything in my life. I'm going to run away and join the circus, casual, whatever. So I start just like training my ass off, every morning before going to work and on my lunch break. And then after work, I just hula hoop. So I got like 3 months until this contract starts, and I'm shit, I'm useless, but I work really hard. And so I just bang out a 5 hoop split. I just managed to just bang out a 5 hoop split, which is like my goal. I learned it.
And for the people at home, what is a 5 hoop split?
So a hoop split essentially is having several hula hoops spinning around your body at the same time. So maybe one on your knees, one on your waist, one in your chest, and then like a couple on your hands. That's like your 5 hoop split. And that's like a if you're learning to hula hoop for circus purposes, a hoop split really should be in your goals list, So a 5 hoop split is in my goals list, and it's also my only goal. I'm not really looking at the rest of the act or anything like that. And so I learned that. I don't even have like 5, like I have 3 good hoops, and the other ones are like taped together from like Chinese crap store hoops, like $1 a hoop, because I have no money. And so I have like these 5 hoops. They're not even the same way. And I like, with the last of my cash, I get like a little costume made, and off I go to the circus in India with a troupe of like 4 other circus performers, 2 British people and 2 from Belgium. And all of a sudden I'm in this giant Indian circus, giant, like a 4,000-seater big top, like God, like in the middle of Mumbai. And so India's just passed a law stating that, they can't have exotic animals anymore in the circus. So a few years before that, the circus had to fire all of their lions and tigers and whatnot. And so the whole circus industry in India, which is a thick trad circus industry, they're all really suffering because, people aren't interested in coming anymore because they want to see the lions and tigers. And so they're struggling. So this circus is like, we're going to get some white people. That'll work. So
I'm glad you made the joke because I was just about to.
No, there's no secrecy. This is basically the deal, And so, I was part of that. And I was like the outcast of the outcast because everybody else who I went with, they were already circus artists and I clearly was not, really clearly was not, I was just like a little hippie with my hula hoops thinking like, I just learned a 5 split in 3 months, guys. I worked really hard. I deserve to be here. And they're like, oh, dude, you have no idea. And I didn't. And anyway, so I spent time with the circus, which was actually really hard, not because of the 3 shows a day workload, but very much I had a lot of ethical issues with there still were animals in the circus. And I'm also not necessarily against domestic animals in circus, but elephants are considered domestic animals in India. And so I did see a lot of animal abuse around me, as well as human abuse. And it was just from an ethical standpoint, that was incredibly difficult for me. So I did end up leaving my contract early and just going like, I actually can't do this. This feels too fucked up. I can't sleep at night. And that left me stranded in India with a hula hoop act. And so I just stayed and I started working in the corporate and events industry in India as a white girl with a hula hoop act.
Oh, I bet you made bank in Mumbai.
I did actually. And bear in mind, before this, I'd never done I've never done anything before that I'm good at, right? I really struggle just living life and having something that I love, and I really love this. I genuinely loved hula hooping and I loved being good at something. I went from being an absolute no one to, opening night in the circus was performing for 5,000 people and all of Mumbai's press, it was insane. It's my first time on stage. And I loved it. I got such a thrill out of it, and I felt good, So I just kept doing it, and so I lived in India for a couple of years doing this, making my Indian rupees, and I got a little house by the beach in Goa, and I would just travel around the country and do weddings and shopping malls and corporates and whatnot, everything we kind of do now, but with my very, very average skill level, but blind confidence at the time.
Which will get you very far.
It did, actually. It really did.
Cheers. Yeah, no, I'm serious. That's awesome. So then why did you leave India?
Okay, so I left India because, I think you only need to spend a week in India to realize that spending a long time in India is, it does kind of get to you. It's a really, really full-on place.
I spent 6 weeks there about 2 years ago, and I loved it. So where were you there? Which place? I flew into New Delhi, and then I kind of just I really love riding in trains. So India's the perfect place for me.
Yeah. You're a train nerd. You're a train nerd.
I'm a train nerd. I'm I'm kind of a train nerd. So I would just I was right. And so I went all the way out to Jaisalmer in Rajasthan.
Oh, wow.
And then just took trains back through Rajasthan and then met a bunch of people and hung out in Rishikesh for a while. And then went to Germany from there. And I was oh my God, I got so sick. But I loved it. But I also understand, I try to explain to people, when you go to India, you don't take a plane, you're taking a rocket ship and you're getting off in a completely different world. The air is different. The rules are different. Time and space are a very different thing in India.
I love that analogy. You don't take a plane, you take a rocket ship and then you're in another world. Yeah.
They are. Yeah. And when I had gotten there, it was like, you literally like, you couldn't breathe the air because it was in
New Delhi,
November.
The fire. Oh gosh.
Yeah, that's it.
Crop burning. Yeah. Ridiculous.
But you were in Goa, which is beautiful.
Yeah. So I ended up settling in Goa, and it was, that was really nice. And then from there I sort of flew. I traveled through India. Like when I basically like I had like a work season and then like a little bit of an off season that I do some traveling and then go back to work. It was wild, Shannon. It was wild. It was pretty fun.
It sounds like the best. I always envy hula hoopers because I feel like it's one of those skills. You can take it anywhere.
Anywhere. Absolutely anywhere.
You don't need a lot of setup.
Nothing.
And once you have the skills, I don't know if this is true or not actually, but it seems to be the case. It's kind of like juggling where like, yeah, you might need to brush up on some things, but it doesn't require the maintenance that like aerial or contortion or hand balancing or acrobatics.
Yes.
It doesn't require the kind of body maintenance that those kinds of things do.
No, from someone who's been training aerial hoop all week out of sheer boredom and want for doing something else, I can confirm that it is nothing like needing to brush up on aerial skills. It's manipulation, right? So, I mean, there's a couple, like, of course, there'll be tricks that are more difficult than others, of course, but no, body, like the tricks that I've been doing them for so long. They're in my body. I can dream them. You know, it's this, I can pull them out without anything. And I don't need anything. And this is a really good point. I don't need anything. You know, I just need the bloody hula hoops. They're quite awkward to travel with. But as long as I have that, I'm cool, you know. So that's a luxury. And yeah, I love it.
So you were like doing your thing in India, again, aside from the fact that India is full on. But Goa, as far as India goes, like they sell alcohol in Goa.
I made use of that because at the time I was like, okay, so I'm here. I kind of did the same thing that I do now, really, which is like, okay, so I'm home for a bit. So can I get a club gig? Like, what can I? I'm a real hustler, Shannon. So like every moment that I'm like not sort of going like, oh, but I could be making money. Like, what am I doing? You know? So I think I took a scooter and I just like went to all the clubs and I was like, hey, I'm really good. Can I just hula hoop on your podium? You know? And so I got some of those jobs. So I like every weekend that I'm not like performing like around the country, I'm like at the clubs, just like go dancing with hula hoops, making my Indian rupees, making that money.
Yes, make that money.
Yeah.
And then you left.
I left, and so I went to the UK, which is kind of so I'm Dutch, but I lived like. Most of my sort of from 16 years old, I moved to the United Kingdom. And so like the UK really feels like my home. So I went home to the UK and, but you know, like I was still, you know, I was a hula hooper now, but I wasn't so I was a professional in India, but not in the rest of the world, you know? And I was really aware of that. I was like, I can't now put I can't translate this to a real job.
And is that because your skill set wasn't good enough?
Okay, so a couple of things. Like, first of all, I have like not quite come to terms with like my identity, I suppose. I'm not sure what it is exactly that I love. I'm essentially still a sort of floating abouty kind of hippie, right? So I'm kind of aware that I'm not 100% sure exactly what it is that I want to do the most. Like, do I want to work alone? Do I want to work with people? Like, if so, what is the kind of work that I want to do? You know, my skill level, like anything that I can do at that point is just hula hooping, right? I have no foundational circus skills, right? I can do the splits. That's it. I can do the splits on the ground. That's it. I can't, you know, I don't even think I can do a cartwheel, Shannon. I have like no physical skilz. So at this point, I'm like, okay, I need to get myself up to scratch. I need to get myself, maybe I want to get myself into circus school, get an actual education, right? Because I don't have one at that point. I left school when I was 15, you know? So I was like, okay, maybe I'll see if I can go to circus school. And I know that I'm not even going to pass an audition, right? I know that. So I'm trying to work out what my best course of action is. And then I start busking. A friend at the time, who was also a floating about hippie, is a juggler, and he takes me out. He's now an incredibly successful circus artist, bless him. He takes me out busking on the South Bank by the London Eye in London for the first time, and I'm like, okay, fine, yeah, I have no shame. I'm just gonna do this hula hoop on the street, and And I really vibe with it. I get really good at it, you know, and I start making pounds, you know, I start making actual money that I can use in the real world.
Which are much more valuable than rupees.
They are much more valuable than rupees.
I mean, yeah.
And I get
as the exchange rate goes.
Yeah, exactly. And I get to, well, I mean, I think this was around the global financial crash, so I'm sure I lost a lot. But and so I then decide, okay, I need to get myself into a school. I need to save up money so I can get myself into some kind of school. And so I set my mind on there. I know there's a circus school in Rio de Janeiro. In my what's it called? Blind confidence, epic ignorance. I'm like, fine, I'll just go there. I don't do any research or anything like that, Shannon. I just go, I'll just make some money until I've got some money to move to Brazil. And that's exactly what I do.
What I think is kind of so funny about this story is that, like, it sounds like you've already become a professional hula hooper. You're running about India, getting corporate gigs, getting all sorts of gigs. And on the weekends in Goa, you're go dancing and hula hooping. And then you come back to the UK, you find someone to help you, and you start street performing, you start busking, you start making money performing, I'm assuming, hula hoops on the streets of London.
Yeah.
So what was it that made you feel like you needed to do something else?
Because I wanted more, Shannon. I wanted more. Okay, so let's go back to me going, like, I know I can't even do a cartwheel, you know, like, I know I can't even do a cartwheel. And I'm looking, by now there's at least, 100 videos on YouTube, you know. And so I can see, so there's Elena Lev from Cirque du Soleil, and it's just her amazing hula hoop act, you know, which is basically a contortion act with hula hoops. It's so beautiful. Till this day, the most beautiful hula hoop act. And of course, that's a huge inspo for me. And I'm like, okay, I've got to learn handstand, you know, well, my body looks nothing like that. All right, so I have all these goals that I want, and I have no idea how to reach them, you know? So I just know that I need an acrobatic foundation. That's what I need. Mm-hmm. And I can't just get it. I don't know how to get that. And so I just need someone to take me under their wing for the smallest amount of money, right? Because, like, we're really working on a budget. We're really working on a budget here, you know. And so I set my mind on that, and I'm performing my ass off, busking, you know, I'm just doing little, like, 3-minute hula hoop sets on the street. That was my jam. We do hundreds of them in a row, you know, work from like 10 a.m. to like 7 p.m. Doesn't matter. We do so many sets on the street. And so eventually I sort of, you know, in coins, get enough cash together, and I moved myself to Brazil. And I literally walk up to the circus school, which is a giant big top in the north of the city in Rio de Janeiro. And I'm so arrogant. I just knock on the door and I'm like, "Hi, I'm here to join the school." And they go, "I'm sorry, who are you?" And I'm like, "Well, I thought I want to join this school." That's literally what I didn't call them or anything like that, Shannon. I just rocked up. And they were like,
I did the same thing at ENC, actually.
Did you?
Yeah.
How did that go for you?
Not well.
But I appreciate that so much. I appreciate that so much. Thank you so much for telling me that. Thank you.
No,
I
totally.
love hearing that.
I came, I knew nothing about, I came and I was like, "Hi, I saw your school online. I'm really interested in starting circus." I was 22. I just graduated from college, and I was like, "Can you show me around?" And they were like, "I'm sorry, who are you? Do you have a name on a list?" I was like, "No, I just kind of want to." I just
wanted to say hi.
They were having none of it.
Oh, no. Yeah. So the Brazilian circus school is called Escola Nacional de Circo. So it's also called ENC,
nice.
But in Portuguese. Yeah. And so the two I can confirm the two ENCs are quite different, because they sent you away. They didn't send me away, Shannon. They were like, "Oh dear, who's this?" And I was like, "Look, just teach me basic acrobatic foundations, please." In English, by the way. They can't understand me. They all speak Portuguese. I don't speak any of that, by the way. And so I basically go, you know, I can hula hoop, and I can teach your students hula hoop. Do you want to do a swapsy? And they're quite interested in that, actually, because hula hoop, bambolê, that's Portuguese for hula hoop. That's not a discipline at the circus. It is now, by the way. It is now. It's not a discipline there.
Of course it is.
So I go, cool, let's teach, can you please teach me handstands, grand acrobatics, maybe some lyra, and I'll teach your students hula hoop. And they were so into that. And so I started going to school there, and I learned Portuguese, and I just freaking worked my ass off. And I was there for 6 months, just working my butt off. I was still pretty shit, but I was a lot better. So I got stronger.
Could you do a cartwheel?
I could do cartwheel. I could do forward roll.
Nice.
I could do cartwell both sides, and a handstand. And that's handstand. Okay, go. Got a handstand in there, and learned some aerial strength and stuff like that. And so I went back to the UK and I auditioned for the Circus Space, which is now called National Centre for Circus Arts in London. And I got in, and there I was on my degree program. So I did get that in the end.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And what did you do with that? because I think it's so funny, because Kate, who we talked about before, went to ECQ, the Quebec school. Yeah. They're called CIRCUS. I don't know, whatever. Correct. Some French acronym that I'm going to butcher even if I got it right. Well, she said that she kind of came out of school and didn't have any work. And so she kind of had to start street performing.
Yeah. So something similar happened to me. Although I think I was quite prepared for it. I mean, I'll be really blunt. I didn't actually have a very good time at circus school at all. I felt like I had greater expectations, and I did feel like the circus school that I went to, they were very, very strict on only wanting students to do one discipline only one, right? Not two, not three, one. And this was kind of a problem. I hadn't expected this, because I was like, oh, I want to do, I'd love to do, handstands, or can I do aerial? And they were like, well, to be honest, Lisa, you're a bit shit. So this is actually what happened. I mean, they didn't say it in those words, but it is what happened. They were like, well, no, our students, they specialize in one discipline only. And given your experience, you have to specialize in hula hoops. That's what you have to do. And I was, this is really what happened, Shannon. And I was like, at this point, to be honest, I've worked so hard, mentally and financially to be there, that I'm like, okay, I'll take it. I'm so glad that you'll even take me on. Thank you so much. Of course, I'll do hula hoops, which is ironically kind of the only thing that I'm actually good at, but never mind. So
yeah, but you go to school to learn things you're not good at.
I know. It's this is a huge problem, right? And I'm still struggling sort of with the aftermath of that, because what I should have done is gone, yeah, sure, I'll do hula hoops, and then gone, okay, by the way, I don't want any hula hoops. Can you teach me handstands or aerial hoop or whatever other discipline? But I wasn't that bold, I suppose, and so I didn't.
I'm actually really glad you said that, because I think a lot of my listeners are interested in a path in circus arts, and some of them are younger and looking at schools and looking at things like this and thinking about things. And I think something that people don't realize is that when you go into these programs, you really do have to advocate for yourself and your own education in certain ways.
100%. This is the one, I wish I would have done that, Shannon. I wish that I would have been, wish I would have been brave enough to stand up for myself, really, and say, no, I can teach myself this solo discipline that I can learn off YouTube, which they didn't give me a teacher for it, Shannon. I was doing I'm not even joking. I learned the most hula hoop skills at school from a rhythmic gymnastic teacher that my teacher smuggled through the back door, and I would pass her 20-pound notes because she wasn't part of the program. That's what I did with my time at circus school. That's how I learned the most in my discipline, not from the teaching I was provided, I probably shouldn't say that. Oh, well, whatever. And so I should have stood up for myself and gone, no, guys, actually, you know what? I'm paying my butt off for this course. Please teach me other things that I really need to learn. And I didn't. So yeah, if you're listening and you want to go to circus school, please do yourself a favor. Make sure you learn 2 or 3 disciplines, no matter what anyone says, no matter what anyone says, because you'll need them.
Don't listen to the people who are telling you what to do, because I don't know why they do that.
Can't trust anyone in the end, Shannon. You can't trust anyone. You gotta.
Yeah. Out for yourself. So you left Circus Space.
Yeah, so it's worth pointing out that during my time in Circus Space, I'm busking my ass off, right? So whilst I'm at Circus Space, I'm learning all of my acrobatic foundations, handstands, and all of our contemporary dance, theater, whatnot. And but I don't have any money. I don't come from money. So I work my butt off on the weekends to pay for my school and my house and my food. And I'm still busking in the same place that I started to busk at. However, this time, I am making a circle show. So I'm also upskilling from doing a short 3-minute busking routine and then asking people for money to making a full-blown 45-minute show that I know I can perform with essentially for the rest of my career. So I'm doing this at the same time because I know that I need a backbone for when I finish school, but also during school, so I can pay for my life. So I'm doing this at the same time. And so when I left school, I just continued to do this immediately. I think the week after we finished school, I went to Edinburgh Fringe with my circle show, my 45-minute show. And I just busted my ass off, working every day at the Fringe, which is just, Edinburgh Fringe is an amazing place to learn how to busk or really it's an amazing place for artists, full stop. It just is incredible. And I knew that was kind of going to be my destiny, I'm going to do street shows and now anything on the side, stage wise or anything hustle wise, I'll take it, but I'm going every avenue. I'm going every avenue that puts me on stage, no matter what the fabric of that stage is, if it's concrete or Mali,
Yes, I love that. Okay, so what's a circle show? Explain it to the people at home.
Yes, sorry, I just throwing terminology around. So a circle show is a busking show. Busking is, so when people think of a busker, different people get lots of different images in their head. So a musical busker can be somebody with a guitar in a street corner. That's a busker. Or it can be a magician on a corner with a little stand doing a cups and balls routine. That's a busker. Or it can be a juggler or someone like me doing little hula hoop routines. Or it can be a person taking up a large space. They create a circle of people, hopefully, and they'll be performing an actual show. So a structured show, something with a beginning, a middle, and an end. Imagine a stage show, but completely adapted to suit an outdoor, constantly moving environment.
Yeah. And when you created this circle show, you were in school. Did you go home and write it one night? Because I've had other street performers on. They do Renaissance festivals, but Leah and Etienne.
That's comparable, yeah.
Acrobatrics. And they write material. They have their scripts and they work out different things and they kind of evolve over time. Is that what you did? Or I imagine if you're out there every day, you kind of are just creating on the spot.
Yes. So
that wasn't even a question. I don't even know what that was.
But I'm so with you though. I'm so with you.
Cool. Perfect.
So there are so many different kinds of approaches to this, right? If you're working in a duo, a script is more important, obviously, because you can't just talk over each other. And it's worth pointing out that you can have a circle show completely silent, or you can talk. And so because I speak English and I started working in English-speaking countries. That's just what I did. I talked a lot, actually. So if there's two of you, you don't want to talk over the top of each other, or even if you don't talk, you don't want to, you have to have a structure of what you're doing so you're not stepping on each other's toes. You complement each other. For me, though, I just went out and did a little bit on, adding a little bit on, right? So I started with a hula hoop routine, my hula hoop routine that I had been doing. And then I just went, okay, well, maybe I'll make a little beginning. Maybe I'll make a little end, right? So maybe a 3-minute routine becomes a 7-minute routine, right? Because instead of just beckoning people to come and watch you with your eyes or with hula hoops, you can, if you all of a sudden chuck a mic on your head and you go, hey, hello, everyone, I'm going to perform a hula hoop routine. If you want to come and watch, you can come a little bit closer. And then you finish and then you go, all right, well, I'm now going to do this one trick and could you please give me money afterwards, right? Imagine that's the bare basics of your circle show. Your 3-minute show becomes a 7-minute show. And then you add on to that until you end up with an hour, really, eventually.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's pretty wild. It's pretty wild.
I love it. And so you still do the same show that you did in Edinburgh that first summer after school?
Essentially, yeah. I mean, I think this is what's really beautiful about street shows, actually. You like this one thing that I've learned from stage shows, if you make a stage show, you rehearse the show, you perform the show, you might do one season, you might do lots of seasons, and then you move on, you do something else. And I've never done that with my street show. I've always just tried to improve it as much as I can, keep it as relevant as I can, put all of the new skills in that I really wanted to put in front of people, right? So what I was performing back then in Edinburgh, I guess it's 10 years ago, I'm still performing, but it's a lot better. It's a lot better because
I hope so.
But you know what I mean? But it's not just, it's still the same. It's still the same structure, but I'm constantly chipping away at it, making, like working out how I can make it better, how I can make it more fun. Can I rewrite the jokes? Or maybe something really awesome happened that I want to happen again. So, and again and again. So I make sure that it happens every time. So it's a
like what? What's like an awesome thing that like happened by surprise and then?
Okay.
I know that's probably a really hard question to answer.
Let me think. Well, for example, so one of the things that I do in my show is with love, I do give a lot of shit to middle-aged white men. That's kind of what my show has evolved to be over the years. And so, and it never used to be, by the way. It just used to be me going, I'm pink. I wear pink. I'm blonde. Here's my hula hoops. Yay, give me money. And now, for example, you could get a heckle from, let's say it's a middle-aged white man. And you maybe on one day you would have a really great return for that, like you would be able to put someone in their place if they would give you a shitty comment, So then you remember how you did that, right? You remember how you did that, and if the audience reaction to that was great, then the next time you could almost put that sequence together so that you would get not that somebody would give you a shitty heckle, but what am I saying?
You could be like, oh, I see you over there looking at me like that, and then say the same witty thing.
You could set it up. You could set up your whole. You build your own status, right? And you set up everything you can set up everything to happen in a sequence of events, and you can give your responses to that every single time. And they're the same.
Your cat sounds so cute. I'm sorry to interrupt.
Okay. I'm just going to let her into
He's on the mic and he's so cute.
She is the neediest cat in the whole world. I'm letting her into the room.
Yeah, she should join. It's for the best.
Okay,
hey, Katie.
Come here. She now wants to sit on my chest.
Does she want to be interviewed as well?
I think so. She's I foster cats in my spare time, so this is not my cat. This is a cat from the shelter that I'm giving some love while I'm sitting at home in quarantine, and she wants all the love.
That's relatable.
Oh, bless. She's now licking my face. All right, darling. All right. So where were we? So
you were talking about making awesome things happen every time.
Yeah. So you learn how to respond to different kinds of situations, and then you learn how to provoke those situations, and then very much so. And then you can, every time you do a show, you get to refine those responses, and also, and every show you get to express those responses like they've never happened before, right? And that magic is really what makes a really good street show. Everything can seem incredibly spontaneous, but actually it's happened 1,000 times before to me. And, that's really fun to work on. So much fun to work on. And it's very challenging, very challenging. And
how do you maintain that?
You have to do lots of shows. It's the only way to maintain it. You just have to be on stage, right? You can't, you can't really rehearse, but I truly believe in this. You cannot really rehearse a street show. You can rehearse the skills, obviously, so work your butt off on your skills that you want to put in there, but you cannot just you can't practice stand-up comedy alone in your room, you have to. That was going to be the
analogy I used. I feel like street show artists, buskers, are the stand-up comics of like the circus performance world. Very
100%.
much. Yeah.
Because it's just you telling little stories, you know, not necessarily, even if it's not with your voice, it'll be in your sketches, you know, because your show would have a number, like my show has a number of sketches in it, like they're the same. And then you just refine them, right? So after thousands of them, that's when they start to get good, you know? I need to just be in front of people, right? So I can, in my downtime, if I'm like, oh, I want to put this bit in my show. Like, so for example, I made a little magic routine a couple of years ago. I was injured and I made a little magic routine. I was like, I'm going to put this magic routine in the show. It's going to go in there, but I can't do it until I'm doing it in front of people. You just have to be brave and you're like, fuck it. I'm going to throw it in. I'm just going to do it. And then you need to do it 100 times and then maybe it starts to work. That's how I work anyway. It doesn't ever work the first time. There's a huge amount of public, like, embarrassing that you have to just, like, I just make such
Which I feel like if you are, like, people really like to see performers succeed, but I also feel like there is some kind of enjoyment when things go wrong.
Oh, I love it.
If the performer is charming enough.
Oh,
you know?
I love it. I absolutely relish a show where everything goes wrong. I think that is comedy gold, especially if your friends are watching. It's the worst. Like if you have it should be pointed out that the most things I learn doing street shows is when other street performers are like at the back of my show purposefully giving me shit, you know, they're like, like everybody's watching this like, oh, well, and we do this to each other as well, you know, when we see each other around the world and we're busking, you know, it's like, oh, it's raining, quick, we're going to go, let's watch Fred do a show, it's raining, come on, let's go, you know, we'll all go, we'll sit in the back and go, oh, he's really struggling, oh, how is he going to get himself out of this, you know. We'll do this all the time. And like, that's really funny, you know. Oh, it's just really funny. A great show is something where something goes horrendously wrong and then you just pull yourself out of it. I love
Do you have any memories of like the worst show you've ever had? Worst best show?
I've had so many terrible shows. What's the worst best show I've ever had? You know what? I can't point it out to a specific show. There's been so many great ones and there's been so many bad ones. I probably, if I'd have like a little whiskey and a fireplace, I could probably point out like 300 really insane things that have happened in my shows. But as it stands, my favorite things in shows is always when I've had whenever I've been able to pull the entire audience on my side for pointing out the annoyingness of middle-aged white men, especially if they've been interfering at that particular point. They're my favorite moments. I live for those. And as far as shows go, I can't think of off the top of my head the worst best one.
I really like it when street performers make fun of children. That's one of my favorites.
I do enjoy making fun of children. They're
so easy.
A bit of both, because I've for some reason I think it's because there is now it's much better, right? But maybe when I started, there really weren't a lot of women performing on the street, and so for me, I have always been, whenever I'm sort of a magnet for small girls mainly, because I wear pink and I'm blonde and I have hula hoops, and so there are a lot of really lovely children that watch my show that are really special, and they come up to me and they want to hug me. Cool. And like every child wants to hug me. It's terrifying. And so I do always feel a little bit of a responsibility to be nice to children. It doesn't mean I can't give them shit, but I am a little bit careful. It's not as funny if I slag a child off than like your average male street performer. Does that make sense? So
that makes total sense.
And I feel like I have a bit of responsibility, and I love being a woman, and I love having that slight nurturing capacity on the street as well, which in a very male dominated sector of our industry is also necessary.
Yeah, that's so interesting. I actually hadn't put any questions in about gender in street performing. It's something that Kate and I talked about again on our interview. But I love that you mentioned that the nurturing aspect, or that part of your personality that you bring to the stage. That's because you don't think of that when I think of street performers. I think of
middle-aged white men
who have And I think of middle-aged white men who have said the same jokes over and over again, and either on a unicycle, trying to get out of a straitjacket. And either they're sick of saying the same jokes, and it's very clear that they are, or they're really trying hard to pretend that they're not sick of saying the same jokes.
I do think street performing does get a bad rap, and I see this especially when I'm performing in festivals. Like if I'm performing at a festival where there is a street performing aspect, let's say a Fringe festival, if I'm in a stage show, that festival, and if I'm not on the street, like I can overhear it, in the Fringe clubs, like, oh, these street performers in the mall, they say the same jokes, it's all the same, this, that, and the other. And I do like, I get where they're coming from, and there is a large percentage of street performers that definitely need to upskill not only their skills but also their love for their craft. But at the same time, it's really hard being on the street every day. It is the grittiest form of theater, and I do like it's. So I think we get a bad rap because you can walk past a street show in a mall. If you're like an artist, you're on your way to work, it's a Fringe festival, you walk past a street show and you hear that same line and you're like, oh, whatever, I've heard this line before. But in all honesty, you haven't actually watched the whole show. And the street show is that. It's the beginning, it's the middle, and it's an end. And if you're going in there going, oh, I've seen so many street shows, this is so boring, like the chances you haven't gone there to set yourself up for a success of enjoying a show. And also these shows, they are made for families, they are not like, this is the thing about street shows, they are for everyone, and this is why you hear some of these lines over and over again. I'd like to add that, I really try to not use the stock lines, but if you see a beginner performer, you will be hearing the stock lines because they're learning, they're working on it. So they're borrowing them, It's a little bit of like a library. You start, you don't know where to start, you borrow a line.
What's an example of like a stock line? What's like the oldest street performing joke in the book?
Oh my God. I've pushed them out of my head so far, Shannon. Let me see.
Done.
Okay. Here's a stock line. Everybody uses this in the beginning. Every single person who starts a street show will use this. So, a street show that you have walk by, right? Walk by is you probably on a microphone, not necessarily, but probably on a microphone, just commenting on what happens, right? So you might sit there, you've got your amplifier, you've got your microphone, or maybe you don't have an amplifier, but you've got your stuff and here you are, you need to get 10 people to watch your show. So you start commenting on people. And so you might see a couple and there's a man and a woman and you're like, oh, sir, that's a really beautiful woman you have there. She is much more beautiful than the woman you were with yesterday. Ha, 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 ha. And then there's a man with a large backpack. And then you're like, hey, hello, sir. You can take your backpack off. You can take your parachute off. You have landed. Ha, 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 ha. So there are some really shitty stock lines for you.
Terrible.
So shit. So anyway, a lot of artists, when they start, they might borrow from the stock library and hopefully they'll put them back. So you might see an artist like that and go, ouch, that was painful. But know that there's always a group of street performers behind the back of this artist going, ouch, that was painful. And they'll walk off stage going, oh, that was painful. That is the beauty, gritty beauty of it.
Of starting out. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and I think the interesting thing about street performing that you kind of touched on, and I do believe this, that a street performer can step on stage much more readily than a person who has only been in the ring or only been on stage can go out on the street.
Oh, absolutely.
I think the directions are,
Because you're absolutely right. And the reason for this is that when you get good at working on stage, you are prepared for anything, right? Because everything awful has
when you
happened.
Work on the street.
Yes, sorry. Yeah. So when you work on the street, everything awful has happened to you in your show. Like I've seen, like, this hasn't happened to me, but like audience members sometimes die in the street show. Like someone has a heart attack, like that happens, or like an ambulance rides through your show, or it starts raining, or like I have a friend, someone took a shit in the middle of his show in the show. Like, I'm not joking. This happened to Matt Ricardo. Like somebody came out and took a shit in the middle of his show. Like the worst. Like people come and harass you. People beat people up. Like the worst. Everything awful that can happen on the street. It happens to you. Like, it's no joke, you know, that all happens. So you imagine after even a year on the street, if you've done 100 shows, you've seen some shit, maybe even quite literally, right? So then when you take that to the stage, doesn't matter. Like, you've had it, you've heard it all before. Like if lightning strikes your tent and all of the sound turns off, and, you know, someone dies in the tent, you're like, I've seen this before. I know how to deal with. All right, guys, clap along. We're going to do the rest of my...
You're like, whatever, I still got my 5-hoop split.
It's fine, you know, it's fine. And that to me, that experience, I'm so glad I have that experience, Shannon, because nothing phases me, you know, like, it is impossible for me to embarrass myself. I just don't have that. I don't have that ability in my body anymore. It just doesn't happen, you know.
You mentioned more women are in street performing now than when you started, which I think is really cool. How else has busking or street performing changed since you started?
It has changed a lot, I think. And the main thing is that really there are less and less and less places for us to street perform. We are slowly being pushed out further into the margins of the city, really. Like, we are a city, this is a city activity, really. And one of the things that we've seen very much, like pretty much over my whole career, in the last 15, 20 years, we see more privatization of public spaces, right? And this means that, so for example, this happened in Covent Garden in 2006 or 7, Covent Garden being like probably the home of street theatre in the world in London, a very large market building with a beautiful square and a number of other beautiful street performing locations. So the council didn't sell. The council just leased the entire market to a private development company, right? So this space then shifts from being a public space, a place that people can come to enjoy the city, a place that a square, a location that is for people. It then becomes a location that is made to profit off people, right? So, my cat is jumping on the computer. So what happens then is, so in the case of Covent Garden, you know, this development company pushed all of this. There's like small local shops, like craft shops, art shops, you know, cafes, restaurants. Like, they were all one by one pushed out. We got an Apple store, and then, you know, Louis Vuitton, Gucci, Prada. They moved in.
No.
Yeah, no, this is like gentrification of an already gentrified area. So double gentrification. And so the space, so obviously not only does this drastically change the kind of people that are now welcome in that area, on top of that, underlying that is that the public space that we believe is a space for us is actually an illusion, right? It's not real. It's a pseudo public space. It is a space for us to be bombarded with advertising again, if we're not looking at our phones. So for street performers, this meant, and this is happening all over the world, not just in Covent Garden. So for street performers, this means that, you know, maybe one day we'd rock up to work and there's a Tesla on our pitch, you know. They just put a car there because this is now not owned by the council. This is now owned by a company, right? So they can essentially do whatever they like. So there's now a car in the middle of the pitch, and, you know, people can take photos with it. And that has just put 16 people out of work for that day because they can now do what they want. And Covent Garden was very successful because the street performing is so ingrained into the fabric of Covent Garden that the Street Performing Association, they managed to put a stop to that. But you know, that was, you know, they really had to fight for that, you know. And so, for example, you know, now I live in Melbourne, and my home pitch, you know, I used to be able to work there, you know, at least 8 days a week. And now it's now it's obviously nothing, but it might be maybe 1 or 2 days. And even then, the rest of the days, my pitch is rented out to Coca-Cola, you know, to give out free samples of Coca-Cola or whatnot, you know, and we don't need Coca-Cola.
Do you have the option of, no, certainly not. And I'm going to ask a question that I already know sounds kind of beside the point, but I'm just curious logistically.
Sure.
Do you have the same option as Coca-Cola? Could you rent out the pitch?
No,
the
because
place in which you perform?
it's like, it'll be like 10 grand, you know, to rent out my pitch.
Right.
And it's worth pointing out also that, you know, with the privatization of public space, and it doesn't just threaten street performance, you know, like obviously that's like the symptom that affects me the most, but it's also your right to protest, you know, because it's not a public space anymore.
Well, so, I think it reflects the well-being of society as a whole.
Yeah,
totally. Your right
exactly.
To protest,
you can be
your right to gather, your right to just take a nap on a bench. Yeah,
you can now be moved on by security, you know, by private security. This is I'm so, you know, it infuriates me, you know, absolutely infuriates me. They can essentially pick and choose and select which people are there that they can profit off, you know, and so no, you know, I'm never going to have none of the street performers are ever going to have a chance against Coca-Cola, except for possibly in Covent Garden, where people do still come to see street performers, but you know, the market's really suffered from it, you know, because you're not going to take your family to a market where you can essentially buy everything that you can buy in an airport. You know, because that's what they do, right? Is that you can buy everything you can buy in duty free, you can now buy in Covent Garden, you know? And so, so you basically, so really we have no legs in the situation. We have no chance. And this is really upsetting, you know? And I think as a result of this, street performing is not my full-time job anymore. It can't be.
And was this true before the coronavirus? Before the pandemic?
Yeah. So
okay,
I don't even know what street performing is going to look like now, because we now live in a cashless society. Essentially, most of my local stores aren't taking cash anymore, and so I can't even mentally comprehend what this has meant to street performing yet, you know. But no, before COVID, like this has all come with privatization of public spaces. I can't even imagine it yet, Shannon. I don't even know yet. The whole point of street performing is to bring people together. You know, the whole point is if I have a bad show, I can spend half of my show asking people to stand next to each other, you know, and let alone it'll be like, it'd be like obviously, I'm still in isolation. I can't even go outside if I wanted to, but I can't imagine yet stepping my foot in a theater again and having my audience all sit apart. You know, that's our nightmare, isn't it? Having our audience all sitting like seats with gaps in between them. And it will be like that on the street. You know, I don't even know if it will hold. I think street shows, for me, when they start again, they will be happening in the context of gigs. So they'll be happening in the structure of outdoor theater events or outdoor events, which is great, you know. And I love doing outdoor events with my street show, but I don't know when I will busk again. So sad.
Oh, I'm sad for you.
Oh, so sad,
man. What makes me the saddest about it, or like it was before when I was talking, I was like, hula hooping is so awesome because you can pick it up and you can do it anywhere, and you need yourself and your hoops. And it's like, well, no, actually, I completely forgot. You need a place to do it.
Yeah.
And you need an audience.
Yeah.
Those are two very important parts of the hula hooping as a professional as well. So.
Yeah, I don't like doing it on the internet. It's not the same. It's devastating, but also, you know, who knows? It might make way for something more exciting. One of the things that's being toyed around with a lot right now is how to take digital payments on street shows, and we've seen that a little bit, you know.
Yeah, I was going to ask, like in the States, they have Venmo. I say they have because I'm in Canada and I'm separating myself from my former.
Yes,
they have Venmo, or they have Cash App. Yeah.
So Venmo is very widely accepted in the US. So I believe that might make a difference. Because I do have, I've been to Canada a lot for outdoor street theater events because they are so big in Canada and it's so lovely.
Huge.
So in Canada, I can accept e-transfers, you know, by bank.
Mm-hmm.
And so I've tried this, you know. I have a sign with my with my email address for e-transfers and stuff, and I get some, but it's not the same, you know. Like, one of the ways that you earn money is by, you know, you speak to people, people watch your stuff, you speak to people's hearts, and then kind of like this weird almost like like a charity fundraiser, how when one of your mates chips in, you're like, oh, I've seen it on Facebook, oh, I better chip in now, like this sort of like viral giving thing that sets in during a street show, because nobody wants to pay you. But if 5 people have paid you, if 5 people have come forward, you're like, oh, okay, well, I should probably, like, it feels morally right now to come forward and put some money in. But that's not the case if somebody just looks at their phone, because they're just looking at their phone. So you don't know that they're giving,
Interesting.
So normally people come up to me, and I've got my hat in my hand, and I'm like, thank you so much for giving me money. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Of course I'll take a photo with you, this, that, and the other. But like, what's going to happen now? Somebody comes up to me with a screenshot going like, oh, I've given you $10. Here's the screenshot. Can you please stand 6 feet away from my daughter as I take a photo of you two? I don't know, Shannon. It doesn't feel the same to me.
I don't know either, Lisa. It doesn't feel the same.
No. So anyway, if you're listening and you have a great solution for this, please reach out.
Someone will come up with something pretty brilliant.
I hope so.
Somehow. So what are you doing online? You emailed me and you asked to talk about something.
Yes,
so let's talk about it. But what was it? You can tell I'm very professional. I'm very good at this.
So during quarantine, I've been at home, and I've been teaching a few people on Zoom, which has been really fun. And I've also partnered up with a brand new circus teaching app called CIRCUS, and it's a circus cross-skilling tutorial platform. And it's going to go live very soon. Very likely, if the podcast is out, it's already live. And you can sign up and you can learn like every circus discipline. And so
what's it called?
It's called CIRCUS. CIRQO. Sorry, dyslexic mind. CIRCUS and
CIRQO.
Yeah.
.com.
.co. .co. And yeah. And so I've been filming my butt off making tutorials so I can teach people how to hula hoop. People like other circus artists, but also anyone who wants to learn how to hula hoop. Or I think the idea of the site is, that maybe you're an aerialist and you wanna learn that second discipline, Shannon, and now you can learn it online. You wanna, like we were talking about before. I'm gonna be using it as soon as it's out. I'm gonna be using it to brush up on my handstands and on my contortion skills. And because it's made by people inside the circus industry, we're not looking at, some fitness person on YouTube teaching us shitty handstand techniques. Do you know what I mean? So it's structured like this. And so I'm really looking forward to that. And I've been working my butt off to put tutorials out for it. So yeah, I'm really excited. So if you're listening and you want to join CIRCUS, can we put a little link in the show notes, Shannon, and they can sign up?
Oh, for sure. We can put a link in the show notes.
That'd be great.
You guys go and check out Lisa and learn everything she knows about hooping, which is a lot. 10 plus years of being awesome. Final question.
Yes.
What advice would you give to yourself at the beginning of your career?
Okay. At the beginning of my career.
Did you write it down?
No, I didn't. No, I didn't actually. I saw you write that. I did make some notes after you send me the questions, and I looked at that, and I looked at that, and I went, no, I'm not going to look at that. Okay, don't listen to anyone, but listen to everyone. No, okay. Here's the advice that I would give myself in the beginning of my career, or anyone's career. You don't need to be skinnier. You need to be stronger. That is the advice that I would like to give myself. And yeah, that's it.
Done.
Yeah.
Cool.
It's good advice.
That's actually probably, I was almost going to say that's the best advice anyone's ever given on the podcast, but that's a little hyperbolic. But that's like, it's pretty, that's real.
Because
that's real shit. I'm here for it.
Yeah, because like, I feel like maybe that landscape is changing a little bit, because we do have so many great places to, great people and great resources to reach out to on the internet. But certainly when I started, this was completely not the case. It was always like, as a woman, you're probably too fat and you just need to sort it out, lose all the weight, get as flexible as you can. And, it breaks women. And I really wish that somebody would have just taught me how to get better at strength training. I think I still suffer from that. So yeah, that's the one thing that I would really wish I would have taken to heart if somebody would have told me.
Yeah, sure. Well, Lisa, thank you so much for coming on the show today.
Thank you so much for having me.
That was my interview with Lisa Lottie. Two quick little pointers I wanted to say about Lisa's interview. The first one was this thing that I kept coming back to in the first section of the interview, where I kept asking her after her time in India, Lisa, you had already been performing as a professional circus artist. Why did you feel like you needed to go to circus school and get an education as a professional circus artist if that was already the job you were doing? And I kept asking this question because it's something that I see a lot with people who have not had a circus school education. Usually they've had some kind of formal coaching. They've been in gymnastics. They've done other kind of performing arts or something and then come into the circus world. But they enter the circus world and they think that they need to go to a circus school in order to be a professional artist. And you don't need to go to circus school to become a professional artist. You need to work as a professional artist to be a professional artist. And sometimes the best route for that is not necessarily going to a school. As you heard in the interview, Lisa expressed a lot of troubles and issues and problems with the school that she was at for certain reasons. And I think that that's an important point to bring to light, because so often we think that there's like this straight path where, yes, if I get this education, then surely I will be a competitive part of the job market. But really, and I think that this is true more than ever, really, circus is an industry where you make your own role and you make your own career path. No two people who I've interviewed on this podcast have ever had the same career path. And it's just a testament to how innovative and how creative this job demands you to be, not only when you're on stage, but as you're living your life as an artist as well. So I thought that was important to point out, and it leads into my next point, which is how circus, and specifically Lisa talks about how street performing has changed because of the privatization of public places. She gives examples in the podcast, but basically what it means is all the space that people used to have to perform, to congregate. We talked about also to protest. People were able to meet there. People were able to sleep there. They could take a nap on a park bench if they were tired, if they were hungover, if they had nowhere else to go. You could just nap on a bench. And now people are being cleared out of places unless they are able to pay money or look a certain way. And that's deeply problematic and something that we should all kind of be paying attention to no matter where we are in the world. As Lisa stated, this is happening all over. But I think that we're going to find a solution. I think live performance is always and will always prevail, and there will always be the renegades out there who will figure out how to assemble a crowd and give a bloody good show. Lisa Lottie is one of them, and if you want to check her out, lisalottie.com is her website. It's fabulous. On Instagram, she's Lisa_Lottie. On YouTube, she's Lisa X Lottie, as she is on Facebook. And the company that she was talking about, where you can learn to hula hoop with Lisa, is Circo. That's CIRQO.co. And I'll put all of that in the show notes. For aerial training tips and inspiration, you can find me on Instagram. I'm at _artist_athlete. My Facebook is The Artist Athlete. My website is theartistathlete.com. And my Patreon is patreon.com/theartistathlete. Thanks for listening. I'll talk at you next week, friends, fans, and enemies. The Artist Athlete podcast is supported solely by donations from people like you. Here's what some of those people have to say.
Hi everyone, this is Allie Cooper, owner and coach at the Radical Movement Factory in Santa Cruz, California. I love supporting the Artist Athlete podcast and the amazing community Shannon has created here. I teach rope and fabric and have a circus conditioning app available on iTunes called Circ Plus. You can follow me on Instagram at AllieCooper_, and if you find yourself in California, come say hi.
Hi, I'm Leah. I hate conditioning, so I created the ABCs of Fitness, a fun, full program of active flexibility, body weight, and cardio with personal daily check-ins to motivate you wherever you are and whatever discipline you do. Join our next 19-day check-in challenge and slide into my DMs on Instagram at ABCs of Fitness.
Aloha! My name is Beth Russell, and I live on the beautiful island of Maui, Hawaii. I am an aerial artist and movement instructor specializing in chakra yoga to keep me balanced and grounded. I play with silks, trapeze, lyra, rope, acro, aerial yoga and dance, slacklining, pole, bungee, and climbing. Really anything that goes up and allows me to explore 3D space. You can find my dedicated aerial page on Instagram at Maui Aerialist. If you find yourself coming to Maui, let's play.
Hey there, friends, fans, and enemies. This is Chris Alston, Patreon of the Artist Athlete Podcast, straps artist and lyra performer and acrobat out of Greenville, South Carolina. So if you're ever passing through, make sure to stop in and see me and my friends. We have a wonderful space, and we'd love to see you.
Hi, my name is Erica Lee. I'm from St. Louis, Missouri, and I'm an aerialist. I teach performing arts to elementary school during the day and do pole and swings and rope by night. I really, really like the Artist Athlete podcast because it gives me a lot of circus goals to look forward to. It gives me a lot of insight on what's going on around the world in circus, and that's why I'm Patreon.
Hello all. Thank you for tuning in to the Artist Athlete podcast. I am Opal Schwartz from Minneapolis, Minnesota. If you're ever in the cities, feel free to stop by the Aviary Minneapolis. It's a great time. With that, I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your week, and goodbye.
Hey there, artists and athletes. This is Andy Smith, owner and artistic director at Saltaire Circus School in Jacksonville Beach, Florida. And I want to thank you for contributing to the Artist Athlete podcast. If you ever find yourself down in Florida, come check us out. Whether you're an artist, athlete, or someone ordinary just looking to be extraordinary, we got a place for you.